Claire Rowan, editor of Food and Beverage International, here with Scott Bush, Vice President Marketing, DuPont Nutrition and Health. Hi Scott, thank you for taking the time to speak to me.
Yep, no problem, pleasure.
I know that a lot has been going on with DuPont over the past year with the merger with Danisco, bringing Danisco in, and now most recently Soleil. But obviously what's going on for DuPont Nutrition and how has the Danisco arrival made such a difference?
Well, it's been a busy year, as you've said. I mean, first Danisco a year ago, now Soleil within the last month. So in terms of what's been happening in the business, first, DuPont has large growth objectives for this business in nutrition and health. And DuPont is really focused on one of the major megatrends, which is feeding the world. So if you look at the world's population right now, we're about 7 billion people, projected to grow to 9 billion by 2050. You think, okay, going from 7 to 9, not a big deal. But if you put it in different terms and start to think about, we're adding the population of Germany every year to the world. So every year, 75 to 80 million more people need to be fed. Another way to look at it is in 2050, we need to produce 70% more food than we are today. So you look at it in those terms, and rather than just going from 7 billion to 9 billion, it starts to sound much more daunting. And it's an issue that DuPont is addressing. And not only do we have to produce more food, and are we working on ways to produce more food, but we've got to produce food that's more nutritious. We've got to produce food that generates less waste. We need to protect the environment when we produce this food. So the earth that we use, the water that we drink, the air that we breathe, we need to make sure that we're using sustainable methods in food production and food preservation. We also need to make food that's affordable and accessible. So if you think about third world markets, they don't have the same spending power as most Americans or Europeans might have. And so the access to food and the affordability to food, the nutritional value of food are all issues that DuPont is addressing in addressing this megatrend of how are we going to feed the world today and how are we going to feed the world tomorrow.
Okay, and so that's behind its move to take over Danisco and Soleil, you would think, and how will these sort of initiatives help with this objective?
Well, in terms of, so we've set the objective. The objective is feed the world nutritious, affordable, accessible food. So what are we doing about that? Well, if you look at sort of three pillars within our business, one is nutrition. So we're working on ways to reduce the caloric content of foods. We're working on ways to take out sugar, to take out fat, to take out salt, take out the bad things that are in food that are leading to obesity and other health issues. So nutrition is one big aspect of what we're working on. Next is really health. So what can we do to improve the health profile of foods and supplements? And that's a lot about what we're showing here at VitaFoods. So for instance, we're showing Pinvita phytosterol for cardio health. We're showing probiotics for digestive and immune health. We're showing Active K for cardio health and bone health. So we're looking at ways we can improve the nutritional profile, the health profile of foods, or dietary supplements. We can put some of these same bioactives into pills. Lastly, the third platform is safety. So we've got ways that we've got a diagnostic business, and we're looking at ways to more rapidly let me take that back for a second. So we've got a diagnostic business, and we're looking at ways to more rapidly analyze foods and other systems for pathogens. So rather than taking weeks to maybe identify pathogens, we can do that in days or even hours. We're looking at ways to extend the shelf life of foods, and we're looking at ways to prevent pathogen growth in foods. So those are really the three platforms: nutrition, health, and safety that we're working on in this mega trend of feeding the world and feeding the world safely with more nutritious and more healthy foods and supplements.
Yeah, okay, and so the testing came with DuPont, with Qualicon.
The testing is a legacy DuPont, yes, exactly, with Qualicon. The bioprotection side of things, so improving the safety of foods and the shelf life of foods, that comes with Danisco.
Yes, I'm thinking that the Qualicon was an existing company within DuPont, and then you've got Danisco coming in, and I think it was just at the end of last year that the changes started to manifest themselves, right. Or sort of DuPont had considered what it had taken on with Danisco. What kind of changes have taken place? How has the Danisco integration, what is it looking like, and what can we expect to see?
So in terms of the initiative and the integration, it's really corralling the resources of what DuPont had previously, Qualicon being a good example, Soleil being another example that's going to come on, in merging those resources with the strengths that Danisco brought to the table, which are the biopreservation, the bioprotection, the bioactives, and the nutritional profiles that we have in terms of reduction of salt, reduction of calories, reduction of sugar, and it's really harnessing the strengths of those various organizations, Legacy, DuPont, Danisco, and Soleil, and really putting those forward on a path where we can, again, work on this megatrend of feeding the world and feeding the world safely and affordably and accessibly. And so we're organizing ourselves now to bring the miracles of science together and really work towards those objectives that we've just set. You know, more nutritious food, healthier food, safer food.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've got a wide portfolio in Danisco, and then Soleil is bringing its expertise in soy proteins. What synergies can you see taking place between the portfolios of Soleil and Danisco?
Okay. Some of the obvious synergies, and since I come from the Danisco side, I can see them with my glasses on. Maybe not so much the Soleil glasses, but there's some synergies, for instance, in access to the infant formula market, where Soleil has good access to the players in that market. We as Danisco, not so much. So there may be opportunities through Soleil to bring probiotics and some of our other active ingredients to the infant formula market through the sales access that Soleil has and the context that they have that we really didn't have. Another example is sports nutrition. As Danisco, we've had some bioactives over the years. We've had betaine, we've had probiotics, and some others that we felt would fit very strongly with a sports nutrition type of marketplace, but we didn't have the context. Soleil is very strong in sports nutrition. So again, we now see markets entering or markets opening up for us that previously we just could not access with our sales force. Yeah. So again, from the Soleil side, I can't speak so much, but from the Danisco side, I see some great opportunities.